Welcome back to the Pistons Jack YouTube channel. In today's episode, we'll be reacting to the Pistons' big loss to the Cavs. We'll talk about some of the positives and a whole lot more in just a moment. That was a tough loss, I'm not going to lie. After probably the first 8 minutes of the game, the Cavs were just in complete control. And apart from maybe a 5-minute stretch in the third quarter, the Pistons just didn't have it tonight at all. And I do have some positives from tonight, but I want to start. Like, the first thing I thought about once this game felt like it was over and the Pistons were down by 30 was pretty much exactly a year ago today. Might have been November 1st. It was the 6th or 7th game of the season, and the Knicks came to Detroit. And I remember that game was even worse than this. They were pretty much from the jump up by like 30 points, it felt like. And Brunson was killing the Pistons, and I think after that game, the Pistons fell to 2-5 on the season, and everyone was feeling pretty scared about the season to come. And I think people, even myself, I was thinking like, wow, is this team just kind of not doomed, but coming off one of the worst seasons of franchise history? Everyone was just really low, and look how that season turned out. The Pistons ended up winning their next 3 games in the regular season against the Knicks, 2 of them at Madison Square Garden, where we saw some of Cade's best basketball. And then we get to the playoffs, and honestly, the Pistons, that series should have at least been 7 games. And I think if Stu's healthy, just Isaiah Stewart, I think the Pistons take it right up to the Knicks and maybe win in Game 7. And we're not even talking about Jaden Ivey. So I say all that to say the Cavs are one of the best teams, not only in the East, but in the NBA itself. And I'm not making excuses for the team tonight. Like, they looked bad for the most part. And we'll talk about some of the issues that I've kind of seen. But I think it's just good to keep in mind that it's game number 4 of the season. So much can change. No one ever would have thought after that Knicks game last year that this team would go all the way and almost beat the Knicks in a playoff series. A Knicks team that could have gone to the NBA Finals last year. So I wanted to start with that because I think after some of these big losses, it's easy to feel a bit doom and gloom. But when you kind of zoom out and take a moment to think about it, it's not the end of the world. And I honestly think these are the types of games that the players learn from because they get humbled. And I must admit, like, you see a lot of people saying, I'm embarrassed watching this. Like, if you're embarrassed watching this, I can guarantee the players, they're not proud of their performance and they know they're capable of so much more. So I'm not worried at all, even as we'll talk about a couple of the things that I think this team struggled with overall in the first 4 games. But stay positive. I think I want to talk about some positives first, and then we'll get to a couple of the negatives because that leads me on to where I want to finish the show. But I want to quickly shout out Dennis Jenkins. I thought in the fourth quarter and for parts in the third quarter, I feel like whenever he's been on the court, he's done a lot of positive things. And the thing I love about him, like some of the other players that come off the bench as this team, is that as soon as they're in, they're all out attack. They're aggressive. Dennis is a great athlete. He's quick. He can get steals, and then in transition, he's fast. He's one of the few players on the team right now that are healthy, that can kind of get downhill and draw a defender and kick it out. And we saw him tonight get a couple of assists to corner 3-point shooters. So I know some of it was in garbage time, or if that's what you want to call it, in the fourth, but I think he just continues to show he's more than a two-way player. And nothing against Tolu and Colby Jones, but I just think Dennis, he's earned himself. His next contract won't be a two-way deal. He'll be on an NBA fully guaranteed deal, which he deserves, because I think he's just showing, like, whether it's his shooting, some of the stuff he does on defense, and I always love his intensity is always so high. So I want to shout out him, and also just shout out Tolu Smith. I thought he worked really hard when he got into the fourth, got some NBA minutes, missed a few free throws, which I'm sure he'll be mad at himself about, but always rebounds the ball anytime he's on the court. So I love his energy. Then the other 2 players is Ron Holland and Paul Reed. I thought in the third quarter, when the Pistons showed some life there of getting it back to under 20 points and potentially making this a game, I thought it was because of Ron and Paul Reed. Paul Reed, he came in straight away. I think he got like 3 offensive rebounds off missed free throws, which is always just a sign of ridiculously high effort. He had a nice dunk. He made a couple of turnovers, but it's never from a lack of trying or awareness. Sometimes the turnovers are just a case of him going too hard and not being able to contain the ball. So I just loved his energy. You know, when you put him in the game, and I think that's why JB put him in the third, was like, he's going to give you something, and it's normally always positive, and it's always normally going to mix up the game a bit, which is what the team needed. So shout out to him. And then I thought Ron was exceptional in that third. I thought he was very unlucky to get called for some bad fouls from the ref. Like, I'm not going to go into it too much, but like, the refs didn't decide this game at all, but I thought in that third quarter they had a horrific 4-minute stretch where it felt like the Pistons couldn't touch the Cavs, but then Ron got pushed in the back by Donovan Mitchell on a layup, and because he makes it, they didn't call the foul. And then down the other end, Ron barely touches Donovan. He's getting free throws. Donovan kind of pushed Ron in the back. It's like a 50-50 call, but because Ron swiped his shoulder or something, they called it on him. So thought Ron was stiff to get some of those foul calls. But I thought on offense, like, he even tonight, like, even on some of his turnovers, I thought his turnovers came off of him pulling off some pretty good crossovers and spin moves, getting into the paint. So I feel like you live with those turnovers, even if they hurt you down the other end, because he's learning and growing. And just the way he drives to the rim and, creates pressure, I think is vital for this team. So those are probably all the positives. And then I think where this team has struggled, I think overall, the starting lineup in all of these games, except for maybe the Houston one, something's just not clicking there. It feels like if Duncan's not hitting threes, it feels like the offense just gets really stuck. And the reason the Pistons were able to get off to an okay start and have a lead for a fair portion of the first quarter was that Duncan came out, hit a pair of threes, and it just takes the pressure off Cade and gives him some more space. But as soon as the threes dried up for Duncan a little bit, the Pistons didn't score. I mean, they didn't score for felt like 15 minutes, apart from a couple of free throws. But once those threes dried up, the offense became very predictable. Cade's having a tough time. He always has a tough time against the Cavs because of Mobley and Allen, like trying to finish over them. And now they have, the forwards' name's escaping me, traded from the Hawks. But they have, it feels like the Cavs just have a lot more wings and forwards that they can put on Cade, and he's struggled. But I think the one thing that's disappointed me in the start of the Boston game and definitely tonight and a little bit in the Bulls game is sometimes the transition defense is just not getting back quick enough. Even after a made basket, there was a couple of times tonight where Donovan Mitchell's already down the other end of the court with the ball and Stu's having to pick him up because the guards aren't back. So, and we saw JB call some quick timeouts early in the third addressing that. So these are easy things to fix. The shooting thing, I think there is too much of reliance on Duncan, and the difference between Duncan and Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. is Duncan's more of like a rhythm shooter. Like, he's not going to knock down contested threes, whereas Bees and THJ, they would just shoot it with someone in your face, and they were good at making them, which is a tough skill to replace. But Duncan's more like someone who needs to get the ball on the move, one dribble, shoot, and it just feels like teams are they're loading up on Cade and then they're sticking someone on Duncan and kind of just making someone else beat the Pistons. And, JD's been good at finishing around the rim. Stu's been decent at finishing around the rim, but it's just doing that the whole game when the other team's hitting threes. Like, when you just weigh up the numbers, it's just you're going to get outscored more often than not. So I think this team desperately needs another shooter. Now, I will say they are also missing Karis LeVert, Marcus Sasser, and Jaden Ivey. I think LeVert played like 20 minutes in the first game, and then we haven't seen him. And Sasser and Ivey are both missing as well. So apart from the shooting, the on-ball creation and people who can just dribble the ball and make the defense actually have to work a little bit, the Pistons, outside of Cade, their next three best ball handlers all are injured, which is really hurting the team. And that's a reason to remain confident about the team, because whilst they still probably do need to add like a true spot-up shooter, like they got some serious reinforcements coming back that will address some of the issues we've seen. The only thing is those players are going to take a bit to get back into the rotation, into a flow. But once at least, Sasser and LeVert were questionable tonight, so hopefully they're back next game, or at least one of them, and then we both have them back within the week. And then we know Ivey's still probably 2 weeks away from reevaluation, so probably 3 to 4 weeks away from his first game. So Trajan Langdon did have some positive news on Ivey's recovery. He said the surgery went perfectly. It was a very minor thing, but they're just being cautious. So hopefully we can get Ivey back healthy to take the pressure off Cade, because he's not playing his best. Like, tonight was honestly one of the worst games I've seen him play in a while, and I think he would admit that himself. But some of it is as well, like the looks he's getting are just really tough shots, tough shots, and teams are going to be happy with him taking those. And he's a player that doesn't like taking bad shots. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit tough on him until hopefully some of those ball handlers get back. But I think tonight's just a game you take your learnings from it, you improve your transition defense. Maybe they do need to tweak the starting lineup if it becomes an issue against, the Magic and some of the next few games, because the schedule, it lightens up a little bit. I think they have the Nets next week, Philly next week, who've looked okay, but these are teams the Pistons should beat. So they have had some tough games. The Bulls did beat the Magic the other night, so they're looking like they've started the season well. The Rockets and Celtics, like the Rockets should be, a genuine contender in the West. And then the Celtics, we'll see, but they're always still a tough out with some of the experienced players they have in championship pedigree. So the schedule hasn't been easy. So I think to be 2-2 that's where I had us. I still have the Pistons starting the season 11-4, and I always thought these first 4 games would be 2-2. I didn't expect them to beat the Rockets, and they did. And I didn't expect them to lose to the Bulls, and they did. So I always thought tonight was going to be a tough game, back to back. So stay positive. I'm not worried at all. Few things to change. Hopefully, we saw Malik Beasley watching the Pistons versus Celtics game yesterday, so hopefully he can get cleared and they could add him back, because if they can get Beasley back on this roster, this team, that would be a huge boost. But we'll see. Either way, Beasley there or not, still be positive Pistons fans. But that's going to do it for today's show. Appreciate you so much for watching, and as always, go Pistons.